Interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Baseball season got underway in Japan this morning, Tony. How did it feel to you?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Some things felt exactly the same, like your Cubs falling below 500.
Can I just point out the Cubs, I think, finished above 500 each of the last two seasons.
Good.
I think.
Well, that's good.
I know they finished in second place in division.
Did they make the playoffs?
They might have been, no.
They
might have
playoffs.
been, had an 81 season in one of those.
But no playoffs yet.
No playoffs last couple of years.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Dodgers beat the Cubs. Deion Sanders proposes a college preseason game, and Jay Billis joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today, Wilbon, with the NBA and you getting both games wrong last night.
Wrong.
So much for your winning streak. You had both the Warriors and the Timberwolves winning at home and padding their winning streaks, and you went down in both. The Warriors lost to Denver, which sat both Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And the Wolves lost in overtime to Indiana on a fabulous shot by Obi Toppin. By the way, Indiana was without its 6 top scorers down the stretch.
And George McGinnis.
So, Wilbon, explain your mistakes and then tell us which team had the more disappointing loss, the Warriors or Minnesota?
No, I had no mistakes. They had mistakes. The Warriors and the Timberwolves, and I watched almost all of each game because just early on it was a tussle for each, and instead of clicking off because they were the blowouts they should have been, because Denver doesn't have Joker, doesn't have Jamal Murray, doesn't have Brown, they don't have these guys. And you just mentioned Indiana, no Halliburton, no Turner, no Nembhard. It's just like there's nobody playing.
Yeah.
They're playing intramural teams.
Yeah.
And Minnesota and Golden State have been on heaters, and they each need to win. They're separated by a game. They're trying to catch the Lakers and stay away from the Clippers and get in. Not to play in. They got incentive, and they couldn't do it. It was a stunning night. It was very entertaining. Minnesota had the worst of the two losses.
Yeah.
Because Indiana's not Denver. And I get it. Indiana's still going to make the playoffs, and Indiana's fighting for a top 4 seed and a spot to play at home initially. But I think Minnesota had the tougher loss last night.
So I sat and I watched you as you were on the set and you were saying, they're both going to win at home. And I remember specifically saying, and I know you heard me, wait, you don't think Indiana has a chance?
Indiana, you thought.
And you said no. So it was with great glee that I woke up this morning to find out that both of those teams had lost. I agree with you that the more disappointing loss is Minnesota. I believe Minnesota needs to win games. They have a very up and down year, Minnesota, and they are not on a trajectory as upward looking as the Warriors are since they got Jimmy Butler.
Right.
Because even with this loss, the Warriors are still 14-2 with Jimmy Butler. They are a significantly better team, which is why I would also say that the more surprising loss was the Warriors. How can you not beat Denver when Jokic and Jamal Murray aren't there?
Yeah.
Did Denver get a wake-up call because the Wizards beat them?
The Wizards beat them twice this year. That's another topic.
Wizards tanked yesterday. They tanked. It should be an investigation.
And by the way,
should be.
No Steph Curry tonight. Steve Kerr said he's tired. What do you make of that?
That he's tired?
Yeah.
I make of it that he's tired, and he's somebody who, if he actually tells you he's tired, you need to rest him.
Well, they rest
because he's your great star.
And he's got to be Steph Curry if Golden State's going to be anything in April, May, and June.
Right. But the NBA should investigate the Wizards. They tanked that game.
The Wizards have been winning games.
No, they tanked. They played, their best players, Poole and Middleton, played 11 minutes each. No minutes in the second half. The guy you love, Sarr, 20 minutes. That's all he played. No, Mike. Because they're going to play Utah next, and the loser of that has an inside shot at the number 1 thing. And look, I know I'm going over the bell. The reason I bring this up is because the NBA, like the NFL, like MLB, has gambling partners now. And this was a boat race. This was not a legitimate game.
It was. It didn't seem like it. You know you want the kid from Duke. You know you want him. Baseball season is officially underway. Shohei had 2 hits, scored twice in front of Tokyo fans as the Dodgers beat the Cubbies 4-1. The champs won despite the absence of Mookie due to illness. Freddie Freeman, too, tweaked his ribs while taking BP. The Cubbies had 2 errors and walked 9. So, Tony, how should each team feel about itself after game 1?
So I don't want to get carried away. It's game 1 of 162.
Right.
If how you feel about yourself is determined by the result of every game, you will go crazy by June 1st.
In baseball, you will.
Yeah, they will go crazy. So what about the Cubs? A few things happened that were not great. They were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They made those 2 errors. One was a throwing error, led directly to
double play.
Led
Inning
directly
could have
to
been over.
a run.
2 runs, I think.
They walked 9. Imanaga was a very good pitcher, but he walked 4 in 4 innings. He walked 4 in 4 innings.
Smart.
And I think I'm right on this. I might not be. I think it's either the last 6 or the last 7 innings. They didn't get a hit. They didn't get hit.
Yeah.
Dodgers should feel
like
good.
last year's Cubs.
Shohei, 2 hits and scored 2 runs. Yamamoto, 5 innings, only 1 earned. Their bullpen was lights out. They went 4 innings, gave up no runs, no hits, no walks, and struck out 5. But Freeman tweaked something that he had in the playoffs last year, and Mookie has a strange virus. Yeah. You don't want to come back to the United States and 2 of your 3 MVPs can't play.
Yeah, they should feel like the champs. That's what they should feel like, because they play like that, because they got number 17 on their side. And the Cubs looked like the Cubs last year, which is not totally discouraging, but because Imanaga gave up no hits.
That's right.
4 innings.
You don't want to walk 4.
Okay, but it's early. It's March.
Yeah.
There should be no baseball yet. Not games that count. But Imanaga was good early, just like he was last year, and the Cubs didn't hit like they did last year. So some things haven't changed. They got to solve that. The Cubs cannot go through these games getting shut out or damn near shut out after scoring the first run of the game and then getting nothing else. But again, these games, I refuse to watch. I actually woke up on Anthony Kornheiser time at like 5 a.m. I could have watched. I refused. I boycotted.
I have a confession.
What?
I was up at 6:10.
You didn't watch?
I forgot.
Good.
I forgot. So I hope I remember tomorrow morning because Sasaki is going to start, and I would like to see how that looks.
Deserve it.
Let's turn to college football and our old pal Deion Sanders. Deion has Colorado's spring game scheduled for April 19th. But Deion doesn't want an intra-squad spring game. He wants a real game against a real opponent. Deion said, quote, "I would like to style it like the pros. I'd like to practice against someone for a few days, then you have the spring game," unquote. Then Deion said of his own idea, "I think it's a tremendous idea," unquote. Deion has already gotten a feeler from Syracuse for this game. Wilbon, do you, like Deion, think this is a tremendous idea?
Well, I think it depends on the execution. It might be. I'm kind of undecided about it. I know that a lot of schools are canceling their spring games for what seem to me to be bogus reasons. They don't want people like scouting, and of the 80,000 people, they don't want anybody scouting their players and pushing them toward the transfer portal, which there is one in the spring. Just get rid of the damn transfer portal. For that matter, close the game off. And do it just invitation only. I went to a small private. We could do that, and I'm going to recommend we do.
Colorado is a large public school.
It is. Okay, but wait. Deion wouldn't go that way. Deion goes a different way, and it's fine for his school. I get it. I want to see the execution of it. But the notion of canceling spring, first of all, there probably shouldn't be any spring games. But to cancel them because people are going to scout your guys and push them to the portal, that is just it just annoys the hell out of me.
So that is a Matt Rule of Nebraska thing, and I'll get to that in a second.
He annoys me.
I didn't know where you were going to be on this because I know that, like me, you like sports the way it was in the 1950s.
Yes.
And you don't like any change, and you particularly don't like the expansion of schedules.
I don't.
And this is an expansion of schedules. By the same token, you love Deion,
yes,
so I didn't know where you would go. I think this is a great idea because college football is now defined by the transfer portal, and Deion's team in particular is defined by transfers.
We have 43
and the spring games are going away. If I'm a coach of a team, and let's say I have 12 to 15 transfers in key positions, I want to see them in a real game. I want to see them against real opposition. Matt Rule's position is, as you articulated, people will watch us and they'll poach my guys in the spring window for the transfer. So if I'm Deion, this is what I do. I find out when the spring window ends and I play the game the next day.
That's right.
That's what I do the next day.
Well, this is not that hard. Everybody wants to make a big deal out of everything that happens every day of college football. That's the culture we're in now. Sorry, bosses who helped create it. And so this is what happens. Rule comes out and says something like this, and people don't look at the obvious solution.
Do you agree with Deion that it's important to play somebody else, not just your own guys?
But Deion's more interested in the practices, too.
That's right.
Which is what NFL teams do now. Deion's done this.
Deion knows how to develop a team. Yeah. If I'm playing college football and Deion or Belichick is interested in me, but I'm interested in them.
What's more important about Deion? See the clip where Deion takes the shades off and says, "Do I look stressed? No, I look blessed." That was better than all this other college football junk.
Let's take a break. Coming up, which 1 seed is the most vulnerable? We're going to ask Jay Billis.
We'll also ask him whether North Carolina would justify its inclusion in the field with a win tonight. No.
I know what Matt Rule is saying, but you just find out the day it ends and you play it after that, right?
Well, there might be a certain number of days, though. I don't know what the day limit is.
They're all pros now in college.
They are.
It's time to dig into the men's tournament with the dashing ESPN college basketball analyst, our great friend, Jay Billis. Let's start with this. The tournament is historically marked by upsets, but you have all 4 number 1 seeds, Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida, making the Final Four. In your opinion, which of them might be the most vulnerable?
Yeah, that sounds kind of wimpy when you say I picked all 4 number 1 seeds, but I actually, there was a rhyme or reason to it. I always, when I look at the bracket, look at the path of each number 1 seed, and I'm asking that question you just asked, who's the most vulnerable? And I really didn't see a huge vulnerability. And the last time I picked 4 number 1 seeds in 2008, and they all made it. It's the only time ever. And the Final Four was in San Antonio. And then I felt the same way looking at this bracket. And oddly enough, the Final Four, coincidentally, is in San Antonio. But if I were going to say most vulnerable, I would probably say Auburn, because they did lose 3 out of 4, even though the competition they played was tremendous. And they've got a couple obstacles in their path that could be difficult. I would, if I could pick any path of a number 1 seed, I would probably pick Duke's. But Florida, to me, is the best team. They got a rough draw. I would normally pick St. John's out of a region because of how good they are, but they're in Florida's region, and I think Florida's just too good.
Let's just note for a second that I did pick St. John's.
Yes, you did.
Over Florida.
Yes, you did.
Final. Jay, from day one, you told us the SEC is historically great, and you have proved to be right every step of the way. The SEC got that record 14 teams in the tournament. Well, so now let me shift a little bit and ask you, what is success for them? I mean, Tony and I lived through, you were a wee chap when the Big East got 3 out of 4 in.
Right.
Can the SEC, I'm presuming you think the SEC could do that, but what is postseason success for the SEC given they got 14 in?
You know, if we're going to look at it reasonably, and not all fans are reasonable, I think having a Final Four team and then having their league perform up to seed. If you have a bunch of higher seeded teams, and by higher I mean 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, whatever, if they get bounced out early, there are going to be a lot of people that say, "See, they weren't as good as you said," or "They weren't as good as they thought they were," stuff like that. But it's hard to explain to people that just because it's the best league, top to bottom, relative to the field, doesn't mean that Duke's not the best team, or Houston's not the best team, or some other St. John's can't win it. That's not what that means. But the overall strength of the league is second to none in my time in the game. And but they'll hear it if they don't perform, and most of their teams at least win early round games and get to the second weekend.
All right, so the moment I did a bracket, I said, I'm going to go with upsets. I want to be different. I want to win. I want to win on the Tony Kornheiser podcast.
Oh, we're going to get you a free tube of toothpaste.
Yeah, that'll be really good.
Yeah.
So, Jay, I did pick a bunch of upsets, and I believe in some of them. I mean, I got a 14 seed winning, a couple of 12s. So I got upsets everywhere. I know normally you believe in upsets. Do you see any specific ones that anybody you think could get to the second weekend?
Oh, yeah, there are a few. But what I would say about upsets is if you're going to take a flyer on an upset, unless you really believe in a team and think, hey, they're on a heater, they're better, they're a second weekend team, what I would say is pick upsets where you think both the teams in that game are likely to lose the next game, so it doesn't blow up your whole bracket. But I think VCU in the East has a very good chance to upset BYU. BYU is really good. They can really shoot it, but VCU forces a lot of turnovers. They offensive rebound pretty well. They can create extra possessions for themselves. And then Ryan Odom, their coach, was the coach at UMBC when they beat Virginia, the first 16 to ever beat a 1. I think Akron's got a fair chance to beat Arizona. And Akron is coached by John Gross. They're small, but they play up tempo. They can really shoot it, and they've won like 20 out of their last 21 games. The trendy pick is out of the South, which is UC San Diego against Michigan. UC San Diego is good. It's their first year of eligibility for the tournament, but it's such a trendy pick. I have to remind my friends that are thinking about it, going, the Michigan players have ears, and they're hearing everybody pick UC San Diego. They're probably going to be ready for it. So if you think UC San Diego is better, then take them. If you think they're going to sneak up on them, they're probably not now. And then Utah State, I think, has a fair shot in the Midwest of beating UCLA. That's a 10-7 game. I think the 11s, the 10s, and the 12s, there can be some upsets there, but it's probably going to wind up being somebody we're not talking about. Lipscomb is going to win, or Liberty's going to beat Oregon, something like that. Because the ones we're talking about, man, I'm telling you, those players are processing that, and they're gonna say, "Oh yeah," and they're going to be more prepared than perhaps if we'd all stayed silent on our upsets.
We'll get you out of here on this in my ear. They say to Jay, please be quick on this. So I'm saying it. North Carolina on the court tonight in a play-in against fellow 11 seed San Diego State. Would a win tonight justify the Tar Heels' inclusion in the field, or do you think it's justified without it?
I don't think it's justified if they win or lose. I don't think anything's justified. It's justified based upon their record in the season. I don't think Carolina did quite enough relative, but it was in the range of reasonable. But if they do win, I think West Virginia has to drop their legal case.
Yeah, great legal case. Thank you, Jay, as always.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Steelers star Cam Hayward has a message for Aaron Rodgers.
And the Sixers keep sputtering down the stretch, and now they got some really bad news.
Yeah, they shut down both your boys.
Yeah.
Both your boys. And by the way, you didn't want...
Tonight on...
Happy time, people. Happy 61st birthday, Bonnie Blair. Probably the greatest American woman speed skater of all time. Blair won 5 Olympic gold medals. She won the 500 meters in 1988 in Calgary. She won the 500 again and the 1,000 meters in 1992 in Albertville. You were there?
Yes.
She doubled up again in the 500 and 1,000 in 1994 in Lillehammer.
You were there.
I was there. Blair also won a bronze medal in the 1,000 back in Calgary.
Wow.
Blair had all the success while Dan Jansen was having all the heartache in Olympic speed skating in Calgary and Albertville. Jansen finally broke through with gold in the 1,000 in Lillehammer. Blair and Jansen trained together in West Allis, Wisconsin, as did all-time great Eric Heiden.
Well, it seems like Blair and Heiden would be on the short list of greatest American winter Olympians ever.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? The whole thing.
That's a lot of gold medals.
A lot of
gold medals. Happy anniversary, Loyola Marymount. On this day 35 years ago, the 11th-seeded Lions set the record in what is still the highest-scoring game in NCAA tournament history, beating 3-seed and defending champion Michigan 149-115.
Wow.
149.
Wow.
Loyola coach Paul Westhead had an extraordinarily fast-paced offense, encouraging players to shoot within 10 seconds of gaining possession. Plus, they pressed on defense to force opponents into a frenzied pace. During the tournament, Loyola's Bo Kimball shot his first free throw of each game left-handed, 3 in all, to honor Hank Gathers, Loyola's great power forward, who had tragically passed away on the court some 2 weeks earlier in the West Coast Conference tournament.
Tony, I covered for the Washington Post some of Loyola Marymount's games following that. They're among the most emotional sporting events I have ever attended. I will never forget them and what it felt like to sit there and watch Bo Kimball shoot those free throws left-handed.
Happy trails, Paul George. The Sixers shut down your boy, their wing, for the rest of the season after he took injections in his left knee and adductor. I hope I pronounced that correctly. George averaged 16 points per game in his first season in Philly. That's his lowest output in a decade. He's about to turn 35, and he is owed more than $162 million over the next 3 seasons. George joins Joel Embiid on the shelf at the end of a miserable campaign for Philly. The team is 22 games under 500, 6 out of the play-in. And management has incentive to keep losing. It owes its first-round draft choice to the Thunder unless it finishes in the top 6 picks in the draft.
Look, you know how much I like Paul George. This is no secret. You tease me about it all the time. I was one of those people a year ago chirping in his ear to go to Philly. I hope you go to Philly. I hope you go to Philly. And I know the injuries, first to Embiid and then to him, it was a disaster of a season. I still wish for the great comeback for Paul George in Philly. Don't know if he'll be there long, but I hope that Paul George has a huge comeback season.
There's no playoff for playoff P this year. Let's go to the big finish. The Heat have lost 8 straight. Is there cause for concern?
Yeah. They're like tied with the Bulls, I think, for that 10th, the play-in, and they can't even avoid them, and it's the first time they've ever lost 8 straight under Coach Spo. Steelers defensive captain Cam Hayward said on his podcast of your boy Aaron Rodgers, quote, either you want to be a Steeler or you don't, close quote. My thoughts exactly. How about yours?
You don't understand the drama that is Aaron Rodgers, the need to create that.
I don't want the drama.
I'm reading here, Rose beat Vinyl to win the first unrivaled title. Is that significant?
I'm sure for a lot of people it is. It's like the spring pro football, the XFL. I'm not watching. That's not me. Nor is the next item. The New York Golf Club made it into next week's TGL finals. You're invested, aren't you?
I watch it. Am I invested? I'm thinking of calling a broker, but I'm not invested yet. Last one, the 11-year-old's Paul Skeens rookie card now above $750,000 at auction. Your reaction?
I hope it gets to $1 million. Well, who handles that? Who makes the decision? An 11-year-old or your parents?
Oh, no, not
ultimately.
No, you bring in a professional. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. You know what's next.